You okay?
I'm struggling.
What's wrong?
I I don't want to swim anymore. I don't ever want to go in the water again.
Why's that?
God, I'm scared.
Scared of what?
I'm scared to swim.
Why?
After seeing what you hooked and pulled up to the boat today, I don't ever want to swim again.
Got off in town, resident on 70 Road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all right inside the grove. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go through the pen. Mr. Clark is a lawyer, he could lie stream. He the first man to prove that water run upstream. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, you know he is my friend.
What's going on, my fishy fin friends? We are sadly, with mixed emotions, we are sadly nearing the end of this season. It's mixed emotions because we're going to be doing a lot more fishing on Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll obviously be back. We'll be back in the fall. Just, this has been a fall and winter run for the time that this show's been going on. But how you doing tonight, Lady C?
I don't know. I'm feeling heaviness from you, from our intro and your fears, and now your sadness to not having a show for a little bit.
I look forward to seeing these guys every week. It's fun. We've got a nice little following. Walleye Pete's coming to say hello. Rashawn's here. Sounds like Walleye Pete. Are you eating calamari? Is that what's going on?
Calamari.
He's eating calamari and drinking beer. I mean,
Yes. He's had some long days out on the water.
he has.
Yes.
He has, and Pete, we miss people back home as well. So we saw your post about that. Speaking of back home, there's apparently some really bad weather in the area. So if you're back in the Chesapeake area, please take care of yourself. Stay alert to any weather or the conditions around you.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get some weather here ourselves. There is a big tropical storm, I think, is in the Gulf. It hit Texas with tornadoes. Some other states got hit with tornadoes. We came in tornado warnings, and now we have some heavy weather coming our way again.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't been following us, we are in Cape Canaveral, Florida right now. Actually, tomorrow morning, we're packing up and headed to the other side of the state. We will be in Matlacha, which is an island right by Fort Myers, and we'll be there for almost 2 weeks.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be good.
That's great. We got Pete, Walleye Pete here. So the season kind of ends tonight. We will be doing a special episode with Pete on the 28th. Mm-hmm. So we're going to bring Pete in. He's been on the show before, but never live. So bring all your questions. I hear Pete's giving away his boat. Isn't that what's going on?
Okay. That'll be the day.
So we'll have Walleye Pete, and then we'll be wrapping it up until the fall, right?
Yeah, we're going to have a crazy, interesting new season next season.
Already got lots of stuff that we can't quite tell you guys about.
Not telling anybody, not even friends, a family member. My firstborn doesn't know, so we're keeping it on the hush. Yeah,
I mean, nobody knows that Barack Obama's coming on the show, right?
What? Don't get all political now. You see what happens.
Well, W's coming too. We're keeping it even.
Okay.
You got W. All right, tonight we are really psyched to have Steve Fogle from Backyard Custom Fishing Rods, Backyard Custom Rods. Excuse me, I'm already screwing it up. This guy makes really quality stuff. Pete, man, you're coming up all the time tonight. I fished with this guy's rods on Walleye Pete's boat and a few other people's boats. I hope to have one in my hands soon. That is my very own. But without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Fogle. Steve, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing well, folks. Thank you.
Doing great. Yeah, Steve Fogle is the owner of Backyard Custom Rods. You've been making rods for how long now, Steve?
I actually got started back in 1997 is when I've actually started building fishing rods, but my business did not actually take off until 2007.
Well, not only have many people told me this, but I feel like you really make one of the best, if not the best, fishing rods in the region.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Well, tell us about how Backyard Custom Rods got started.
Well, like I said before, back in 1997, well, back up a bunch of years, my family moved here to Walkersville back in 1968. And when I moved here, I met a gentleman by the name of Frank Dayhoff. Frank took a bunch of us kids under his wing, more or less, and taught us a lot about fishing, crabbing, hunting, and everything. So I used to go down to Frank's house all the time. So one day I went down to his house back in his shop, and he was building a fishing rod. And that was the first time I've ever seen anything like that. And it piqued my interest. So I asked Frank, hey, is there any way I can possibly get one of these rods and build it myself? And he goes, absolutely. So he got me the rod, he got me all the components, and I sat down there in his little shop and I built my very first rod. And I really enjoyed it. So I bought another one, built another one, and then I started talking to a bunch of guys, and they said, won't you build me one of these? So that's about how I got started. Just started building for family and friends. And like I say, after a while, it got to be, I'm building more and more and more. And I told my wife, I said, I think I'm going to start a little business here. So in 2007, kind of contacted my accountant, and he said, you bring me some money up here and give me a name of a business and I'll get you started. And that's how she got started, and I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've been a fan of your rods sort of from afar. You make a ton of fishing rods. When we were talking before the show, it sounded like almost one per day. What is it about making fishing rods that you're so passionate about?
That's a good question, because I get asked that all the time. Why do you want to build a rod? One of the biggest things when I build a fishing rod and someone takes that fishing rod out and they catch their personal best on that rod that I built them, that without a question, I don't make a lot of money on my rods, and believe me, I don't. If my wife was here, she'd tell you the same thing. But I just have a passion to build fishing rods. And it's just that thing of someone going out, catching their personal best, sending me a picture on my phone saying, look what I just caught on the rod that you just built me. It's my personal best. That's worth $1 million to me.
Oh, that's good stuff.
It's great. It's great. It's very satisfying to know that people are taking them out and using them and catching fish.
That's awesome. Well, we just we came from actually doing fishing related stuff right into the show tonight, and we kind of sped right into it. And I forgot to recognize our sponsors. Yes. So we got GI Jigs. Yeah. Our man LJ at GI Jigs makes a fantastic product. And Hook Optics are two sponsors for the evening. We've gotten to use both of the products from both companies during this trip. Yeah. And it's been it's just been a pleasure, and we've been getting a lot out of both of these products. Mm-hmm. So do we have any questions? Yeah, do we have any questions coming in? Not quite yet. One bit of housekeeping to let everyone know is that the prize is not just like your run-of-the-mill deal. Yes. as always, the guest gets to choose who wins the prize based on the best question. But we haven't shown what the prize is tonight. Mr. Fogle, do you want to show us what that prize is?
Well, are you ready?
I'm ready, man.
I just happen to have it right here behind me here. I want to give a plug out to Mudhole from Florida. Mudhole tackle, custom tackle, and it's going to be a medium light powered ride. Now, this is just not any ordinary light powered ride. It's 7 foot, but I can make it a 6'8", make it 6'6", whatever you want. But I can assure you this ride blank, there is a gentleman by the name of Captain Chad Cohen, Dog Days Fishing, who I built these rides for to go after speckled trout and for summertime stripers. But what does Chad do? He pushes the limits on me. He's been catching those 30-pound catfish on this ride blank right here. So I have full confidence in this blank to begin with. Other than that, it's a great blank. I mean, it's a moderate action ride, so it's going to bend on you, but I can tell you it's got some ass to it. So it's a great ride blank. MHX makes, I think, some of the best ride blanks there is on the market right now. I've been using those ride blanks for some time, and they've been very good to me, very good. So yes, whoever wins the prize, I just want to get in touch with them. That's the ride blank that they're going to get. We can go over the components that they would like to have on it and get their name on it, get a fish on it, whatever they want. I'll take care of them for it.
That's awesome. So they're actually going to get some customization to their already custom rod.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Wow.
That's sweet.
I may talk them into a few things because that's I want to build someone a ride that they want to be built, but I do give suggestions on what has worked for me in the past. You know, what components I like to use. But there again, I'll leave it up to them.
So Walleye Pete actually asked a couple of questions here.
He's not qualified. I'm sorry.
he said I'm interested in the Hook sunglasses. Where are they at? Oh. Pete, they're in Maryland. They're a Maryland company. We really are, as you know, buddy. We're really into supporting local. And Tommy asked a question that you already answered, but we're going to give him credit for it anyways when it comes to question of the night. And his question is, what are your favorite blanks to work with? Which I believe you just answered, right? I did. Yes, MHX blanks are, like I say, they're top quality blanks. I've been using them for quite some time, and they have a variety of blanks. It's not just a one-dimensional blank. They got several blanks that I do build off of. And Pete asked, is that the blank that I've got?
No, he's got a similar blank. It's a little bit heavier than this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to just hop in on one of the questions really quick. Sorry about that. For Pete and his questions about Hook Optics, we'll reach out to you later on how to connect with them and the best way going about that after the show. So I just wanted to let you know that there's a website, but we'll connect you better with them so you can get connected with them so you can get your glasses if you're interested.
Yeah, man, these things are the best for guys like of my wisdom. We'll call it my wisdom, my age. They've got these knot tires where like the top of the glasses are normal and the bottom of them have a little bit of like a reader section or a prescription section, to where if you're looking down, you can tie your knots or read your chart or anything like that. I honestly can't fish without them. It's like my trolling motor and my knot tires are my go-tos now. Michael Cool's asking a question. You want?
Okay. Oh my goodness.
Oh my,
Mike. Cool going for the longest.
Yeah, Michael always thinks that the best question is going to be the longest.
Yes.
And he's not qualified either. I'm sorry.
Steve Fogle is the nicest guy I ever met. Isn't that sweet?
He's buttering you up, man.
He is.
And gives back more than anybody. Wow. Hands down. My question is long as usual. So, Steve, juggling family, friends, business, and fishing. What do you believe is the best advice to give me, a new guide, on how to juggle everything and stay in the business long term and keep my sanity, stay humble like yourself? I love that question. It's many
Well,
questions, but it's good.
yeah, Michael he does have a lot of my fishing rides, and he is getting me started on a charter this year. My biggest advice, I try to treat everyone as fairly as I possibly can. I, yeah, I'm supposed to be a nice guy, but I can also be not the nice guy. But my biggest thing is to treat people fair. Give them a good product for a really good price. Give them, the best advice I can give is be good to people. I know, believe me, I've talked to Pete several times. I've talked to Chad a couple times who have people on their boats that's not the quite gel that they want to get. But you got to bite your tongue. You just got to treat them nice, treat them fairly, and you'll get by. I'm telling you, you'll have repeated customers. I can't tell you how many customers I have that come back during the course of a year or another next year. They'll call me and say, "Hey, remember the rod you built me last year? I want to get another one of those." I just try to be as fair as I can, as honest as I can, and as humble, I guess.
Speaking of humbling, man, Anastasia and I spend a lot of time on a run of show each week, and it's humbling that each week we get to less and less of the run of show because our audience is asking more and more questions, which really is humbling that people take the time to log in and participate in the show. So
Yeah, for sure.
everyone that's asking questions, thank you guys so much. I got a question from our good buddy, Tommy Robinson, who asked, which is one of my questions.
Yeah.
That was my question.
I know, but it's
Stealing questions.
every time we go back and watch these shows, when the audience asks more questions, it's a better show every single time.
I can see it. I'll bet.
Without question. Tommy asked, what is the most memorable rod that you have ever personally built?
That is I'm happy to answer this question because a few years ago, a gentleman called me from Kings George, Virginia. He wanted to get 2 rods built, and we went over the rods that he wanted to get built and everything. We had everything finalized, and all of a sudden he goes, "I do have one more question for you, and I'm hoping you'll be able to help me with." He said his dad had recently passed away, and he wanted to somehow incorporate his dad's ashes to the ride. And I told him, I said, "Look, I've never done this before. I honestly, I don't know if I can do it or not." But I said, "I'm up for a challenge." Believe me, a lot of my friends know I love challenges. And so he drove from Kings George, Virginia to Walkersville, dropped his dad's ashes off. I then contacted, believe it or not, the local funeral home here in Frederick to be sure it's not against the law to do what I want to do with these ashes. I got the okay with them. I then called one of my best friends, Tim Pridemore, who also likes to build rides on the side. He came over to the house and we sat down and we figured out how we can incorporate his dad's ashes between the split grip of the ride. And it took us a little time, but I tell you, it absolutely came out beautiful. I was overwhelmed the way it came out. And when I called the gentleman to come pick the rides up, honestly, he was in tears. He couldn't believe what I've done to the ride to put his dad's ashes on the ride. And since then, I've actually done 6 other rides with family members' ashes on the ride. Not just put them in the butt of the ride and just have them jigging around inside the ride. They were actually on the ride blank itself. And that was very gratifying to me. For someone to take that, for me to have in possession of their family members in my hands, to give me that confidence that nothing's going to happen to his ashes. I even went down to where we put the ashes on the ride, there was still like a little bit of finish in the bottom of the vial that I used. I actually tore it apart, got everything nice and buffed down, and gave him that back as well, along with the remaining ashes that he had. But that ride there sticks out more than any ride. There again, I've built anniversary rides, birthday rides. I even built rides for a groom to give his bride, and the bride gave the groom the ride, and neither one of them knew that they were getting them. So I've built rides for a lot of different occasions, but that is the ride that really sticks out for the first one. And I say I've done 6 other ones. In fact, I did a ride for a good friend of mine who passed away, and his buddy took his ride out down to the Calvert Cliffs and called his personal best with the ride with his buddy's ashes on it. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, that's from the consumer end, you know, having that sentimental factor in there, and then catching your personal best on that rod.
Absolutely.
Must just be, you know, an experience like no other.
Yes, it was great. I mean, it was very gratifying to me that, like I say, there again, people give confidence for me to have their loved ones here, you know, in my possession, not in theirs. And but it came out, like I say, the ride came out beautiful. I was extremely satisfied. I don't know if you heard that or not. That was a big crack of thunder and lightning out here. But it was great. It was just very, very satisfying. So that was the most memorable ride that I've ever built.
Wow, that's just, you know, I do counseling part-time, and that's just so powerful for healing.
Yes.
When you lose somebody, and just to have a piece of them that close to you, and to maybe even still share in something that you may have shared with them when they were alive.
Yes,
That's
without a doubt. Without
amazing.
a doubt. At least when the gentleman came to pick the rides up, I as soon as I handed it to him, I seen the expression in his face, and I think we both had tears in our eyes, to be honest with you. He was just overwhelmed that I could have done. I did what I did with the ride, and it came out very, very well. I mean, I was very satisfied with it.
That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Let's see, we got
Lots of questions rolling in.
Okay, let's see. So our good friend Tim,
Down in North Carolina.
where'd it go? There you go. Do you use or like microwave eyes, which is better than normal eyes or microwave?
I'm going to disappoint this gentleman because they are one guides that I really do not like to work with, the micro guides. For one, I'm not like a regular. Well, no, I don't have electric winders like a lot of other ride builders have. I do every ride I build with my hands. In fact, if you can see my thumbs, I mean, they're raw because that's all I do is spin the rides. Micro guides, I'm not a big fan of. I know the purpose of them. I know the reason why a lot of guys have them on their rides. In fact, I just repaired 4 rides for a guy the other day that he had micro guides on, that I had to replace the micro guides on them. But I've also had guys that had micro guides on their rides who say, I don't like these things. I can't cast, you know, I tie leaders, they're not going through the leader's not going through the guides. So I'm not a big fan of micro guides. I like a guide that if someone does tie a leader, even though it's a small leader, at least it's not going to get hung up in the guides themselves. And they are teeny tiny. And I don't have big hands by any means, but I'm missing fingers on one hand. So, but they're just tough to they're tough to do. They're just tough to do.
This just in, folks, if you're watching, and you might want to go ahead and call your buddies in too, because the prize just got pretty sizable. Walleye Pete says, so whoever wins Steve's rod also can have a walk-on trip with me to go with it.
Very good. Very good.
You're talking about getting close to a $400 prize that we're giving out tonight.
I would say more than that, possibly.
Man.
Yeah, but I will say this: when Pete has his seminars, he really does. You know, I build rides for his seminars, but he always pushes for the winner to take the walk-on trip over the fishing ride, and I don't understand why.
Oh, I did. I actually won. I went to a seminar years ago. I guess probably wasn't even that long, maybe 3 years ago. And it was the first year Pete was going down to Florida. Mm-hmm. And I won it in the winter, and I just happened to be going down to Florida and staying like in Tampa. And I called Pete and I was like, hey man, you mind if I use it down there? So Pete and I got to go fishing down in Florida. It was pretty sweet.
Well, I was at a
Fantastic.
seminar this year. There's this year, right? And I think I've been out with Pete, and he's an amazing fisherman. But for me, I've been fishing for 2 years now, because I don't have a whole bunch of rods. I would probably choose the rod too, you know, especially if it was made by our guest here.
Hey, I can take care of you. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Tim also added, he said, also, what length do you prefer to use? 7.2 medium heavy for reds and medium light for trout?
Well, there again, depending on what redfish you're targeting, of course, you got your puppy drum reds, and then you got your big reds. If you're going to go after, say, the speckled trout and the redfish, yes, absolutely a medium powered rod, without a question. If you're going to be targeting the bigger redfish, I would go with a medium heavy, maybe a heavy, depending on what you want to do. But my biggest redfish was caught on Chad's boat. I caught a very big redfish, and it was a medium powered rod that I caught it on. And I think I fought the fish fairly good, but no, on something like that, yeah, medium power is what you want to go with the speckled trout and also the redfish, and that's why I built Pete.
Oh, Jiminy Crickets.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scott, we love you, buddy. We love you. We'll read every word of this question.
I will. All right. Who has the best bright green rod you have built? All right. There's a couple things going on in this paragraph. As a rod builder, Steve, can you also explain the way that the graphite works and explain the
Modulus.
Thank you. In blanks, and how, okay, this is a little run on, I'm sorry. And how higher mod use less material to achieve the same spec for blanks. And how lower mod basically have more durability. Why high sticking affects durability, and exactly why it breaks down rods. Whew. Yeah,
that's a long one, Scott. That's a long one. I'll answer a couple of those for you real quick. The modules in the rod are the graphite strings that they put in the rod, and they're putting different materials in rod blanks now. In fact, I'm still learning more about materials they're using. But the higher module rod blanks, believe it or not, I've found that they're accessible to break more than what like an IM8 and the IM7. I like using IM7 rod blanks. It's a little bit more forgiving. I've had a few rod blanks break on me. In fact, I broke one the other day just playing with the thing. And but it's all in the materials that they're using to build these rod blanks with, and there are different materials out there. I do want to talk about the high sticking thing, because that is one thing that I really stress when someone picks a rod up from me is do not high stick any of my rod blanks. And what that means is that when you're fighting the fish, and both of you probably know this, is 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position is where you want to fight a fish. Let the rod blank fight the fish. But once you exceed that 11 o'clock to go to 12 o'clock, now all that stress is now at the tip of that rod blank. And I've seen quite a few rods break that way. Granted, you can get away with it, but I tell people, please do not high stick my rods, because there again, all the pressure now is on the tip of that rod blank instead of having the rod blank itself work the fish.
Great. Just real quick, Pete asked about Hook Optics before. Nikki and Bob from from Hook Optics just chimed in to give you guys, hey Nikki and Bob, give you guys the locations where you can buy Hook Optics. And I'll just make another shameless plug because we use Hook Optics all the time. There's other sunglass companies out there. There's Costa, there's Smith Optics, and Oakley. But not only are Hook Optics local to Maryland, but it's a better product. Yeah. So you're not. It's a double win. Not only are you buying local and supporting a local business, but you're also buying a better product. I mean, I've owned Smith optics. They're good glasses. I've owned Costas. They're great glasses, but Hook optics are a better pair.
Yeah. Well, what makes them really unique is that they care about eye care. So I was sharing with the owner that I am nearsighted and farsighted, and they have solutions for all kinds of vision problems. They have optometrists in their shops, so it's not just a fishing sunglasses that promise to, you can see your fish. It's so you can see and protect your eyes. I didn't realize how important it is to protect your eyes until I started having serious eye problems. So that's my little piece of that too.
Rashawn, how you doing, buddy? I don't know if we said hello to you yet. We got a couple questions coming in. You want to take that one, babe?
Oh, we got a lot going on here.
Rashawn,
yeah, here we go. Oh, this is a good one. Here we go. What is the craziest rod you have ever built?
Well, you know why he asked that question? Because his rod is the craziest rod I've ever built. And that is the God's honest truth. I actually took a rod blank, I painted it, and then I took a paintbrush, dipped it in paint, and flung the paint over the whole rod blank to make it psychedelic, whatever you want to call it. So Rashad definitely has, without a question, the craziest rod I've ever built. Yes.
somehow I thought that was a leading question. I don't know. And I guess Rashawn has a follow-up, more serious question, but he asked, please explain the purpose of spiral wrapping guides on a rod.
Well, I tell you, I really like spiral wrap rods. Of course, they can only be done in casting rods. One of the main things that I really liked about the spiral wrap casting rod is that instead of fighting the fish with the guides on top of the rod blank, and your rod blank now is going down with the line going straight out the rod, the line now is coming from the bottom of the rod blank. So you're fighting the fish like I like fighting the fish with a spinning rod. I mean, most of my arsenal is spinning gear, and you're fighting the rod or fighting the fish on the bottom of the rod blank. Secondly, if you have, say, a rod that's maybe a medium action rod with it's real flimsy at the end, I've seen a lot of times where the line will actually hit the rod blank when you're fighting the fish. There's no possible way for that to ever happen with a spiral wrap. I love building spiral wrap rods. I think there's a purpose for them. Good jigging rods, excellent jigging rods. In fact, I actually built a couple of trolling rods last year for a charter boat captain that all of the guy, he wanted spiral wrapped on all of his, and he loves them. He loves them. That's one of the reasons, so that you're fighting the fish from the bottom of the rod instead of on the top of the rod blank.
Got it. Good stuff. Pete gave my girl a little bit of love. I gotta post this. Lady Chesapeake, you are an incredible new angler.
Pete is a sweetheart. I got to know him a little bit more at his workshop, and he truly is a sweetheart.
I am taller than Pete too, by a half an inch.
No, yes. he threw that in there. He was like, "How does?" That was a question that I wasn't going to put up there. Yeah. He asked, "How does it feel to be 5'2"? I believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We are caught up on audience questions, guys. Keep them rolling in, but
we're on number 6 here.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone keeps stealing our questions, so we got to regroup real quick. Sorry.
Well, actually, we have one here. We have 4.
Is this now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, what situation are your rods best suited for? I think you kind of mentioned a couple of them.
You know, that's the thing. I'm not like a one-dimensional rod builder. You know, I don't build just jigging rods for the Chesapeake Bay or rods for bass fishing. I've actually built every type of rod you can ever possibly imagine. I'm not really big into fly rods. I don't build a lot of fly rods. In fact, I used to have a little saying when I started my business is that I'll build everything from a buggy whip to a tuna stick, but I ain't building no damn fly rod. But I build rods for offshore. There's been quite a number of big fish caught on rods that I've built for guys. Tuna, swordfish, sailfish, blue marlin. I build a gamut of them. I just don't build just a jigging ride or an ultralight ride. I've built every ride that you can ever possibly imagine. Now, I will say this, because of the fact I do them by hand, I won't build any rides now with rollers on them. They're just getting too hard for me to build by hand. So I build a lot of offshore rides, but I use a different type of guide to put on. I use your turbo guides, or I'll use a American Tackle Vertus guide. That's the 120-pound rated guides, but they're very, very light. But I'm not messing with roller guides anymore. I build a lot of roller guides on rides, but they're just getting too tough for me to build anymore.
Got it. So in your years of building rods, has there, and you build all sorts of rods, but have you ever looked at the design that is your base, right? Your bread and butter, and seen an area where you would improve and made an adjustment towards your product?
Well, I will say this. I've been through a couple of companies with ride blanks. I'm not going to mention any names or anything. I'm not that kind of a guy. I was building off of a ride blank that I had full confidence in until I don't know if I got a bad batch of these rides, but they were breaking. I mean, they were breaking at the same identical spot on the ride blank. And I would call the company and tell them, hey, these rides are they're breaking, and I send them back, and they will send me another ride. But after about the sixth or seventh one, it just got to be concerning to me because I'm eating the cost on the components on the ride. They may be replacing the ride blank, but I gotta pay for the guides, the handle, the grips, the whole whole 9 yards, and I just couldn't do it any longer. Then I went to another company, which I really do. I still build off of their ride blanks, but then I got to the MHX blanks, and I started using those blanks, and I got a lot of confidence in them. Their materials they make them out of. I got a very, very, very good working relationship with Mudhole now. They have a new manager for wholesalers that he's my long distance best friend. I talked to him on the phone quite a bit. In fact, they were going through some things. They called me for some recommendations on ride blanks, and I gave them my opinion on ride blanks, what I like to see with for them. Durability is one. Sensitivity is the big thing. I like and a lightness. In fact, I just had a gentleman and his girlfriend stop by the house to see me right before I came on, and he just could not get over how light the ride was. And that's what I like about them. The sensitivity in them is just incredible. The durability so far, knock on wood, has been great. So yeah, everybody's got to mess around with something. You got to go to different ones to find out which one you like the best. And right now, I'm going with Mudhole Custom Tackle.
Got it. Rashawn asked. He says, "Why do you choose EVA over cork?"
That's a good question.
Yeah, and it is. I used to be a cork guy. All my rides were cork, and this is a true story. I decided to go with EVA, just for my own benefit to see what happens. So I built myself a ride with an EVA grip, and I actually took an EVA grip ride that I built, and also a cork grip ride that I built, and I took them out to the bay and fished with both of them at the same time. Personally, I felt more sensitivity through that EVA than I did through that cork. Now, this is my opinion, and I'll probably get in a hell of a debate with a lot of other ride builders or anybody else. I really think that the cork acts a little bit like an insulator.
Yeah, they do.
And it reduces the sensitivity of the ride blank when you're using cork over EVA. I would venture to say that 95% of the rides that I build are EVA. And also wind grips. I like wind grips. The wind grips are really good material, almost like a golf club material. And they're very good. But I just like EVA. I think I felt more sensitivity in that EVA the day I took both of them out and I had both of them in my hands. I felt more bites off of the EVA than I did the cork. But that is only my opinion. and I probably would get in a big debate with other rod builders or old timers who say, no, the cork is the way to go. You know, you got to have cork. Well, and I do still build cork. I still build cork. You know, people ask for it, and I will build it. So, but that's my opinion on it, though.
Yeah, I own rods with both. I think the one that I feel the most, I get the most sensitivity out of it, obviously, is a split grip
Yes.
casting rod, because with one hand, you can always put it directly on,
Yes.
you know, on the blank. But I guess I like the look of a cork grip just because I'm
they're beautiful. You know,
kind of an old school guy. But I will say they age really fast.
Yes, they do. And that was another thing. Two things that happens to cork also, and Pete can contest to this as well. When I built Pete, the first one, Pete came to me and I got the privilege of building rods for Pete. I built him, everything was cork. Everything was cork. About 2 years, 2 years later, he called me and said, Steve, I'm having some issues with these handles. They're turning. Well, if you fish as many days as Walleye Pete does, and all the conditions that he fishes in, I got the rod back from him, and I could actually take that cork and squeeze it. It got so saturated with water that water was then running down into the reel seat and breaking apart all of the finished or the epoxy that I put inside of the reel seat, and it was breaking apart. And
he's got too many jabronis like me that dunk his rods into the water. That's the problem.
Absolutely. You keep them out of the water, they'll be fine. But they do before it gets dirty extremely fast. After years, I call them wormholes in them. They start getting wormholes in them. And I have refinished a lot of cork handles for guys. And but there again, that's one thing about cork. You know, it does get dirty fast. And EVA, you can wash right off. I mean, you just take it and wash it right off. And I don't think Pete's had any issues since I've changed all of his rods out from the cork to the EVA.
Oh, got another question from Tommy. What is the longest one-piece rod that you can make? As a carp fanatic, it's confessions.
Tommy is a carp fanatic.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Longer rods with a good flex is crucial in the fight. This holds especially true once the fish gets close to the shoreline.
Yeah, on something like that, you know, you want to go with a medium heavy or a heavy powered rod, especially if the guys are targeting these big carp. You know, I've seen some Joe Bruce catches really big carp. And you'd want to get yourself a 7.6, 8-foot rod, medium heavy to a heavy powered rod. And I think that would be suitable for that. Now, in fact, I have built some 7.6 rods for carp, and they've been medium powered rods.
Got it. Rashawn also asked, what guides would you choose over titanium?
Thanks, Rashad. Of course, titanium is, without a question, the best guide you can get on the market, bar none. I mean, they won't rust. They're very, very lightweight. They're somewhat durable. They got a little flimsiness to them, but they're very good guides. Of course, Fuji guides, I use Fuji guides for a long, long time. But unfortunately, the Fuji guides that I use, they are not manufacturing them right now. So I'm reverting back to American Tackle ring lock guides. And that is the guide I used before I used Fuji. And in fact, I just had a gentleman stop a rod 2 weeks ago that I built back, I think 6 years ago, that one of the guides broke on him. Wasn't the rod fault, it was his fault. But I like the American Tackle ring lock guides. And here's one of the biggest reasons is that if you look at any guide, the frame itself just goes on top of the insert, where the American Tackle ring lock guides, they actually curve around the insert, holding it in there a little bit better. Plus, it's braced, so it gives a little bit more durability. But that's the reason why I'm using American Tackle. Now, if they get my Fuji guides back in, the ones I like to use, most likely I'm going to revert back to the Fuji guides. But right now, they don't have the guides that I like to use, so I'm going with the American Tackle.
Tommy Tech Outdoors. What's going on, Tommy?
Tommy
Robinson, Tommy Tech. I'm going to ask this one. I'll ask it. I got it. What's the biggest fish that has ever been caught on one of your rods? Do you know that?
Well, There is a gentleman by the name of Kevin Davies. He is a mate on a boat out of Hatteras, North Carolina, and I built him a ride, I think 3 years ago. And every time he takes a, when he goes on the boat where whoever he's mating for down in North Carolina, he takes that ride with him. I wish I had my phone here. I could show you the pictures of him. But there was a gentleman from, I think, was in Georgia, who chartered them and caught the biggest bluefin tuna or billfish he's ever caught in his entire life, and he's fished all his life. But the biggest fish, I think, was the swordfish that Kevin caught on the boat. It was over 500 and some pounds, I think it was, or 600 pounds that he caught on one of the rides that I built.
Wow.
That's very
Yeah, and I was, believe me, he was blowing my phone up. Steve, you're not going to believe this. We're heading in now. Look at the fish that the ride caught. It was great. It was great.
Yeah, I've been actually thinking about working on StreamYard, which is the platform that we're using, and seeing. I don't know if anyone. I know there's some people on tonight that also use StreamYard, to see if there's a way that our guests can share photos. That would be a really, that'd be a really cool thing to do. For example, if you had that photo on you, like that would be a great thing to share.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Not from the audience,
Okay.
but we have some. Guys, we still have about, I'd say about 10 minutes to ask that question of the night and win both a backyard custom rod and a walk-on trip with Walleye Pete that he offered. I'm going to challenge because Pete had 2 beers. He said.
And
I think he got good and relaxed and generous, but we'll see.
All right. Well, if no one has a question, I have a question. So you talk about making the rods with your hands.
Yes.
So obviously your fingers are a very important tool. Is there another tool that you use that this is just, it's irreplaceable, it's a must-have to shape, mold? Some of your rods, and I shared with you when we were talking about coming on the show, are pretty amazing.
Well, thank you.
So,
Thank you.
You know, it's art. It's just not a rod. So you sculpted this with your hands. I just want to know, what is the other tool?
Well, the thing is, you know, as I tell everybody, I don't do the fancy wraps. If you want fancy, go to some other ride builder. I don't do fancy wraps. But I will say this. I will put a wrap on a ride that you can line up some rides on a wall and you're going to say, that's my ride. But believe it or not, the most critical thing that I have that I use to build rides is actually my dryer. And I'll tell you the reason why. The dryer actually spins the ride after you put a coat of finish on it to keep everything level on your guy or on your wraps. One day I was down in my shop and I put a coat of finish on a ride, put it in the dryer, and I had to go to Frederick. So I went to Frederick, was in there probably about a half hour, 45 minutes or so, came back home, and here sat some fire trucks on a road behind us. I wonder what's going on back here. So I came in the house and happened to notice, oh God, the electric's out. And my shop used to be in my back of my yard, and my wife was kind enough to let me have the basement of our house now to convert it into my shop. I ran in the back of the house to the shop, and all the lights were out down there, and the finish sagged about that far. So believe it or not, I think my dryer, as long as that thing is spinning, I know that the ride's going to turn out okay. But that's that is one thing that I have to say, honestly, is critical to me, is my dryer. Just keep that stuff level, and because I take pride in making sure all my wraps are extremely tight together. That's why I usually do it by hand, and I take my fingernails and dig in there, make sure everything's nice and tight. But if that dryer stops, I'm in a heap of trouble, because I'm going to be sitting there just constantly turning for 2 hours until it finally sets up.
Yeah, about how long does it take? I'm not sure if you just answered this or not. How long does it take your average rod to dry?
You know, I let mine spin in the dryer for at least 4 hours until I can see it's not going to drip any longer. But honestly, 8 hours to 10 hours for a complete setup, you know, for my finish to dry. I wouldn't, like I had a gentleman the other day said, man, can I come pick my rod up? I said, no, you can't, because it's still in the dryer and it takes 8 hours for it to dry and cure. And I'm not going to give it to you to put in your car and take it home or put it on your seat. The next thing you know, you got finish on your seat or something. But no, it's that is my biggest thing, is my dryer.
Man, that dryer must, I mean, What do you think? Do you think it's running like 80% of all of the time in the world?
Oh, believe me, I put rides in there before I go to bed at night. If
Yeah.
I'm working on rides, I will put a coat of finish on a ride, stick it in the dryer, and let it spin all night. So I know when I get up next morning at 3:30, 4 o'clock, which I'm usually up, I'll go downstairs and it's ready to take out of the dryer then.
Mm.
And I got one of those. You can dry 3 rides at a time, and I got other dryers too. I've actually had 5 of them running at one time. I know those other ride builders have 20 of them in a big thing to dry, but that's only I do at one time.
So Rashawn has a really good question. I was thinking about this because we had Heroes on the Water on the show. Rashawn asked, how many charities have you built rods for?
Oh wow, kids are my big downfall. Anything to do with kids. I in fact, I got a ride downstairs right now that I just built for a youth league baseball team.
Hmm.
Heroes on the Water. I love those guys, and I built rides for that charity as well. The YMCA here in Frederick, they hold a clay shooting thing every year. I built rides for that. There's other charities I built for a lot. I have donated a lot of rides, and my wife can contest to that. I donate a lot of rides. But anything for the kids. I've actually given kids fishing rides just to give it to them. Build. It may not be the best ride in the world, but I built them a nice little ride for them to use. But anything to do with kids or Heroes on the Water, any police officers, anything military, I give a considerable amount of breaks on those folks' rides. Believe me, all the
Man,
time.
I'll tell you, it may not have been the nicest fishing rod to you, but I guarantee you it was nicer than anything I was fishing with when I was a little kid.
Yeah, but like I say, there's quite a few charitable people out there that I will donate a ride to. I can't afford to donate to everybody who calls me, but I do my best. I will do everything I can to help an organization out.
Right.
Yeah. So no new questions yet. So I have another question. So what's next?
Retirement.
Right on. Yes.
Full retirement. I am retired now, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how many more years I'm going to be able to be doing this. As I said, my fingers get so sore. Like I just got finished building 6 offshore rides for a guy. I'm getting ready to build 4 more offshore rides for a guy. I built 9 rides for a gentleman that is a big bass fisherman, Trey Leach. I'll give him a plug here. He came to me, and I built him 9 rides for his tournament fishing. In fact, he was down there in Florida a couple weeks ago. But I don't know where, I don't know yet. I love doing what I'm doing right now. I don't have anything special planned or anything, but this has been a fun ride. I mean, I met some incredible people that I can call friends, and even some that I can call best friends. And it's been a great ride for me. It really has.
Yeah, well, if you ever open up a school, right, to duplicate what
Sorry?
you're doing, if you ever open up a school to duplicate what you're doing, I have no problems getting my hands dirty. I will be the
Well,
first one to sign up because I think truly you are an artist.
well,
And
thank you.
it's a shame, to lose that. We talked about leaving a legacy, and I'm sure it's extremely hard what you do. And
It
I
takes
don't know
time.
anyone who teaches or does the intricate details that you do. And just from what we hear from everybody who's on the show tonight, like I said before, it's just not a rod. It's,
No.
It's very powerful what you do.
Man, Fred Wallace coming in with a late entry for question of the night.
Got it.
He asked, and the question, because he made a nice testimony to you, which I'll put up after this question, because I thought it was touching.
Mm-hmm.
He says, what do you consider the perfect rod you make for rockfish jigging? And have your thoughts changed on what's best over the years?
That is a really good question, because when I first started building rides for jigging for rockfish, they were 7-foot rods. Everybody was going for a 7-foot ride. Then all of a sudden they went down to a 6'6" ride.
I like
everybody went to
6.
go shorter. That's it. Everybody went to go shorter. So I kind of compromised a little bit and started building some 6'8" rides. And that has been a huge hit. is 6'8", medium power to medium heavy, depending on what you're going to be throwing. You know, that's there again. I ask a lot of questions when somebody wants me to build them a ride. The first thing is, what are you targeting? You know, what are you going to be going after? Then, what kind of weight are you going to be flinging on this ride? You know, because I'm not going to build you a medium power ride that goes, you know, say 3/8 to a half ounce, and you're going to say you're going to throw an ounce on this thing, and it ain't going to work. You know, I'm sorry, but it'll work if you lob it. You know, Pete knows, you know, he needed to lob these things out there, not just bass fisherman who wants to crank it out there. But I have found that a 6'8" medium powered to maybe a medium heavy powered ride, fast action. I love fast action rides. I'm not a real big fan again with the extra fast tips. I have built quite a few, but I'm not a big fan of them because when I jig, I want that jig to come up with me, and I know extra fast will bring it up. There's quite a few guys out there that use extra fast rides, and they're very, very good with them. Very good with them. But I like a fast tip ride. That's my preference.
Yeah, I always went 6'8", 7, particularly when I was heavily kayak fishing. Now I do both.
Yeah.
But I wanted a 7-foot rod because I did a lot of trolling, and I want those rods far, you know, far out.
Absolutely.
But now that I
Absolutely.
fish more from a boat, you know, I've got a 6-foot spinning combo that, you know, fast action. I don't know what it is about that 6-footer, but I love it for jigging.
That's what I've been using for bass fishing now. You know, 6'2", 6'3" foot, you know, rod. That's what I've been using for bass fishing here recently. I kind of got away from the rockfish for a little bit here. I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's political stuff or Anastasia. I'm not going to do that. But I like, you know, a medium powered or even a medium light powered for bass fishing, depending on what you're going to be doing. Just like for Trey, I know we're running out of time, but just like for Trey, I built him all different types of rides from a medium power to a moderate action power to a heavy to an extra heavy because he's fishing lily pads, just like the snakehead guys. You know, I will not build a guy that's fishing for snakeheads a medium power. I want the medium heavy because they're fishing in the lily pads, fishing in, you know, in the muck and everything. So and the grass. So we can get them out of there.
All right, we have a question from Dave. Have you ever built?
What's up, Dave?
Yes.
That man can fish.
Yes. Have you ever built the perfect rod?
No.
Wow.
No. I don't, you know, people say that they probably built the perfect rod. I think it's still out there. One of these days I might be able to find it. I know what's comfortable for me is there again, the 6'8". That's a perfect rod for me. You know, medium powered 6'8" fast action rod for jigging. But to say I built the perfect rod, absolutely not. People say you're the expert. You know, no, I'm not an expert. I'm just not the expert. But it's been, you know, fun to try to build a perfect ride. If you can, and people say, man, this is the perfect ride for me. Well, good. I'm glad I built one for you. It's great. I hope you enjoy it. Hope it catches a lot of fish. But to say I have built the perfect ride, nah, I don't think I can.
Yeah.
No.
I think you're being humble because there's some people responding in the chat that think you have built one. Well, we're really nearing the end of our time. We didn't even get into how you like to fish. It was all about your rod building.
Maybe next time.
Maybe, you know what, we will have plenty of time to have another one. But you know, this may be fishing. This may be something else. I know you mentioned, you know, that rod building isn't going to end soon, but it's not going to go on forever. What's on your bucket list?
You know, I thought about this. My bucket list, I want to come down there where you folks are at right now. I have always wanted to catch a tarpon. I've seen these shows back in the 80s. Yes. I always wanted to catch a tarpon. And we were in Florida. Me and my buddies were in Florida a couple of years back, and we really weren't targeting the tarpon, but I've always said I want to catch the tarpon because, as they say, I want to bow to the king. And one of these years, maybe I'll go back to Florida, but I really do want to catch a tarpon, and I want to catch it on a rod that I built for that tarpon also. But that is big on my bucket list to go back to Florida and catch a tarpon.
Steve, let's go do it, man.
I'm ready.
We're headed down to Fort Myers tomorrow, which is, I mean, I wouldn't call it the tarpon capital, but I mean, it's a heck of a spot to catch tarpon. And, you know, I'm not going to call this trip tarpon or bust, but I really want to catch, I really want to catch tarpon.
I know. I like what Jim Cooper says here. Tarpon on a kayak. Yeah.
Is that what they call a Nantucket sleigh ride when you hook up a tarpon on a kayak? It's called Nantucket sleigh ride?
I mean, got YouTube tarpon on a kayak.
Oh,
you'll see guys catch them inshore, like at a mouth of a river.
Yeah.
And by the end of the video, they're out. You know,
out in the ocean.
Oh yeah. Oh, they're out in the ocein. Which I mean, that's.
Yes.
You actually, on a kayak, in some ways, you have an advantage because if as long as you've got a pedal kayak or something that you can point towards where the tarpon is pulling you, you've got kind of a natural drag system. When you're on a boat, you're static. I mean, that tarpon may be strong, but they're not going to pull a 20-foot center console very far. But yeah. Jim, I'm right there with you. Tarpon on a kayak would be pretty epic.
That would be pretty epic. Yeah.
So it looks like Tommy is going to bed. Good night, Tommy.
Good night, Tommy.
Do you want to do the question of the evening?
Yeah, let's do the drum roll like we always do.
Oh boy. I'm
giving Steve more time to
shake
well,
stuff off the table.
The worst part about this, everybody who commented tonight, they already have a damn ride. I've already built them a ride.
That makes it.
I mean, if I could show you the corner over here at our VRBO, we've got like 18 rods. So I don't think any of them would mind having another.
Okay. How about the gentleman from North Carolina?
Oh man, you could not give it to a better guy.
How's that?
Tim Taramelli.
Yes.
Down in North Carolina. We're going to give it to that guy. Where if I can find his question, he's a kayak angler himself. And guys, if you go down through the Neuse River Basin, hook up with NC Pierman.
Yeah.
This guy will take you on a kayak into like 2 inches of water.
Wow.
And you can pull out reds that are almost not puppies anymore out of holes that are a foot deep. It is an awesome experience.
Wow.
What I appreciate about Tim is that he's such a caring, giving person. He is really big on children as well, like you shared, and giving back to others and helping veterans. He's a big humanitarian, big volunteer, just a big hearted person. So I'm sure whatever he does with the rod, it's going to go where it needs to go.
Well, I'd love to talk to the gentleman. You know, if I don't know how you can get in touch with him, maybe give him my phone number.
Yeah, we'll connect you guys.
Okay, that'd be great. That way I can talk to him more. What was his first name again, Tim?
It's Tim Taramelli.
Tim Taramelli.
And he goes by NC Pierman.
NC Pierman. Okay, I see his thing up here. Okay.
Yeah.
That was a great choice. Yeah.
Great choice. Great guy. Good friend of ours down in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I hope he enjoys this ride here. Like I say, it's great for the speckled trout down there in North Carolina. It's good for the puppy drum down there. And like I say, Chad puts my rides through hell. I know he's a big old guy, but I told him I was going to kick his butt next time he tries a jig for a 30 or 40 pound catfish. Up there where he's catching them now, and he has. He's had these rides bent in half, you know, and he just laughs about it. So, but that's Chad. That's Chad. But yeah, I like to do that for the gentleman in North Carolina for Tim.
Yeah, we're I'm psyched because I hope that Tim will take the walk-on trip with Walleye Pete.
That would be so awesome.
And we get to show him our fishery. Up on the Chesapeake, like he's shown us his fishery down in the Neuse River.
That would be awesome.
Awesome.
That would be awesome, and he would enjoy the trip with Pete. That's for sure.
And he's got to get the rod, you know. Although I'm sure you can ship.
Yes.
Sure
we'll work something out with that, you know, with the shipping and everything. But
well, Steve, it's been a true pleasure. We didn't get to a lot of what we wanted to talk about. We can talk about fishing. I want to be there when we catch that tarpon, buddy.
I'm for it. I tell you, it has been honestly that has been on my bucket list for years and years and years and years. And I just never. But one thing, unfortunately, I don't like to fly, so I would have to drive. But yeah, that is one thing I would really love to do is catch a tarpon. I mean, it's been on my mind for a long, long time. And
so put like 50 rods on that dryer and just start driving down to Florida.
All right, we can do that. We do that.
All right.
All right, gang. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Thanks so much for
Thank you all
everyone who
very much.
watched. Tim, if you're still on, we'll reach out to you. Any last words, Lady C?
No, it was just such a pleasure. Thank you for everyone who signed on, had really great comments, feedback, questions. Always so appreciative. Thank you.
We love every last one of you.
Well,
Thank you
all
guys so
for
much.
having me on. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Steve
I really
Fogel.
appreciate
Bye.
it.
Got off in town, resident on 70 Road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all right inside the grove. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen. Mr. Clark is a lawyer.